Good afternoon, everyone. I like to greet you like we greet people in my part of the world. We say Assalamu alaikum, which means peace upon you all. So peace upon you all. I want to thank Elizabeth for inviting me, introducing me to the Gender Summit. And actually, together we coordinated the first mini Arab Gender Summit in November 2017 within the World Science Forum that was held in Jordan. And as Ernesto previously showed, that we produced the World Science Forum recommendations for the World Science Forum 2017, and there was a chapter about gender there. So I'm really happy to be part of this family. Although I didn't initially start. My background, I'm a molecular biologist at the Hashemite University in Jordan, and I do research in two fields. I work on genetics of ethnic populations in Jordan, on diabetes, and I also work on the signature of trauma on epigenetics and how that is transmitted across generations, and looking at biomarkers of trauma as well. So both of those allowed me to do science that was competitive enough to be part of the international arena of science, and we actually published a paper in Nature just last month, so I'm very proud to say, coming from Jordan. And so a lot of people come and tell me, oh, so it really must be very difficult to do science in a developing country, for lack of a better word, compared to developed countries. And the first assumption is probably it's because you don't have enough money, or because you're a woman. And that made me sit back and reflect, wait a minute, the difficulty of doing science in a developing country has nothing to do with being a woman in particular, and nothing to do with money either. And I wrote this commentary in Nature last year showing that it's actually not about money, not about brains, it's actually about lack of good bureaucracy, lack of good administration that does not allow us to make good science in developing countries. And this is not just in Jordan or the MENA region. Actually, I got so many responses from readers around the world that this is the same in African countries, in Southeast Asia, and and Latin America. But this got me thinking that why did people come to me and talk to me about women and money? These are either assumptions or because they're carrying the rhetoric that they hear from the media, and they assume that that is what is the problem. And to me, it's like we're shining the light on the wrong part of the room. Because I was able to tell them it's not about money, and also it's not about women. Not that women don't have challenges in Jordan or the MENA region, but the challenges we face is similar across the world for women all over. So it's not specific to because I'm from the Middle East or because I'm Arab or so on. And this slide shows that the percentage of women in the workplace is low all over the world, and not just in the STEM fields, but in all different fields, whether it's law or business or banking or whatever. So there is a general problem across the world of having less women in the workplace. And again, the first assumption that kicks in, oh, it's about education. Women lack the qualifications because they're not educated enough in the STEM fields in particular, because I come from the STEM fields. And this slide was made by L'Oreal showing, using statistics from across the world, the disparities between male and female. But again, I beg to differ, because when I look in Jordan at the statistics, actually the percentages of females in primary, secondary, tertiary, and even PhDs is much higher than men. So it's not about education either. Again, it's an assumption, carrying up the rhetoric without really digging deep and understanding the differences between culture. But I can agree across the world, to my knowledge, and again, this is up for critique, that it's about later mid-career where everybody drops off in terms of being female. So if we look at the leaky pipe, I think one thing we can safely say that there is a leaky pipe at the workplace retention level. And as our Swedish Frederick, I think, mentioned, that the workplace itself is actually a masculine place. It's a male framework that was developed by males, especially in the STEM fields and other fields of business. And as females entering this workplace, we're actually different. We are unique. We actually have a much more colorful way of looking at things, I want to say. You know, this is the ceiling. I don't know, do you know what this picture is of? Does anyone know?
Sagrada Familia.
La Sagrada Familia.
Yes, exactly. It's Casa Familia. So it's very, very colorful. But before I fall into the trap of talking about sex and gender, because I always get a lot of kickback on that, because they tell me, Rana, you're a molecular biologist. Why are you going into the social sciences? I'm treading on very dangerous water here. So I want to go back to the first talk to this morning and talk about the differences that we see among human beings. So when if we go back in history, I mean, there's a million different ways we can categorize people. Even this small group, we can put you in a million different ways, looking at different traits and categorize you. But always female, male is one of the categories that we have been doing for thousands and thousands of years of separating people into two groups. Now, I know there's a significant biological background for this, as the speakers before us has shown. But at the same time, this biological difference has been translated into behavioral and social norms, which we see have been argued in books like Judith Butler's book, Gender Trouble, and lately a new book that came out last year by Angelina Saini talking about inferior, which she argues all the biological evidence that women are different are actually not. It cannot be transferred or translated into gender norms. So then the question to me is, how do we strike the balance between acknowledging the biological sexual differences between males and females on one hand, but without using those differences to discriminate against women? Because that's what happens, right? If you go too much to the biological differences, you're not being social scientist, you're not, these are all gender norms, and if you talk about gender norms, somebody from biology comes and tells you, wait a minute, you're not acknowledging the biological differences. And to me, I want to take one issue and use it as an example of how to approach this kind of dilemma, how to strike the balance. And I'm going to take the issue of pregnancy. Pregnancy is a very biological thing. Nobody can argue that it's a social norm or a gender construct. Only females can carry a baby, although somebody argued, no, maybe technology will advance and men will be able to be pregnant. Okay, I don't know about that, but that's for the future. But for the time being, we can safely say that this is a biological difference for females. And as we see here, it's a leaky pipeline. Women who are married and have children actually drop off in their mid-career more than single women or married men. And by the way, this is not something that's getting any better, because as our friend also Fredrik, in Sweden, which is always the exemplar of gender equality and equity, this came out where even though they seem to be equal, they really are not equal as we think they are. And actually, this came out just 2 days ago, where in the New York Times, showing pregnancy discrimination is rampant inside America's biggest companies. So this lady, Erin Murphy, who works at Glencore, after she delivered and had her baby, she was given a closet with the cleaning supplies to actually pump her milk for her baby that she will go back to in the evening. And this is today, right? So we definitely have a problem where our biological differences are being discriminated against, although it's very biological. And what is the solution for this? So male-centric frameworks come up with this kind of solution. So in 2014, Apple and Facebook offered to freeze women's eggs until they're done with them as males, and then they can go and have their kids. So to me, this is not the right solution. This is exactly what this cartoon is talking about, right? We can't use the same norms that are applied to men to women and freeze their eggs till they're more like men. It's about changing the rhetoric. Can we redefine success? Can we look at it in a whole different lens, using our gender lens? I want to say not just gender, our human lens. So again, if we take pregnancy as one, why don't we put a value on pregnancy as a biological phenomena that happens in a certain stage of a woman's life, and put it on it a GDP value? So if I am taking time out to have a baby during the pregnancy, I'm not talking about bringing up the baby. That should be both male and females, partners. But I'm talking about the pregnancy itself or the breastfeeding itself. Then why shouldn't that be counted? Why should I have to compromise or take a decision or a choice, whether it's this or that? And so what I want to call for is a freedom to choose what we want to do as females, biologically, for that particular reason. And then that could be not getting pregnant at all. I mean, not that every woman wants to be pregnant. She's free to do whatever she wants. But because of the survival of the species, we know that the normal distribution, that majority of women are pregnant or will be pregnant at some point in their lives. But you also to have the choice whenever you want to do it, not to be forced to do it in a particular period of your life, to do it whenever you feel you are ready, whether it's early or late or whatever, but not to be pushed to a particular period of your life. And this, again, does not just apply to women. This approach of redefining success should be also for male, because not all men have the same male-centric kind of view of the world. We have males who also are unique and have a diverse opinion. So it's actually looking at it from a humanistic kind of approach. So it's not about equality or equity, it's about liberation, and not having the barriers there, so everybody has the freedom to choose however they want to conduct their lives and make their decisions and choices, and society to respect that and trust women and men to make the decisions that they want. Now, what does this mean? It means changing our perception of what we value. It's a humanistic approach, so to speak, with a value basis, rather than, let's say, a capitalistic basis. So it's about grassroots change and leadership change. So it has to be top, bottom, and bottom up. And it takes all of us to be in this together. And each one of us counts, by the way, in making this change, first by changing how we look at things, and then changing the circles around us. So how do we actually do that? This is nice talk. We've heard it a lot. What do we go home and do today? So there's two pieces of advice. One is that we need to highlight role models and exemplars so that the young generation, our children, see a different kind of definition of success, a different way of valuing things. And we should do this by writing and showcasing. And this is not just about women again, it's about minorities and about anybody or any group who has been discriminated against. And so, so that I walk the walk and not just talk the talk, I actually wrote a book called 5 Scarves Doing the Impossible. If we can reverse self-fate, why can't we redefine success? So I urge you to read the book and send me your critique and play devil's advocate about that. So that's one, write your stories. Let them be out there. The second piece of advice is mentoring, and especially mentoring at a mid-career, because again, we saw that the leaky pipe is at the career workplace retention. There's a lot of mentoring programs for students, both undergrad and graduate and even in schools, but there are less and less for females in mid-career. And so we created actually a mentoring network in Jordan. And our approach is a peer-to-peer mentoring relationship rather than a hierarchical mentoring relationship, where both the mentor and the mentee are benefiting. And it's not about age or seniority. It's about I have something you need and you have something you can give me, and it's about exchange. And it's a holistic approach, not just professional. It's about the personal and professional circles around you in your life. And of course, this would serve the SDG and ultimately, as our other colleagues mentioned, other goals as a result of focusing on that. We also created an ideal society in Harvard that will help serve women professionals around the world, and I urge you to look it up. We called our mentoring program 3 Circles of Alimat because we started in Jordan. By the way, Alimat is a word in Arabic that means female scientist. And we envision it as this cartoon where females mentor other females, and then the mentees become mentors themselves and grow up and produce seeds and so on. So it's a continuous relationship that goes on and on. I'm going to end with a short video because sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures. So, oops, sorry.
The world needs us because we are scientists, teachers, artists. We are in all walks of life. We are also the daughters, the wives, the mothers, and above all, we are humans. Humans need to question and be questioned, to think, to share thoughts and emotions, to spread knowledge. We create networks to experience moments, a sense of togetherness and joy. 3 Circles of Alimat exists because humans are determined to make it into this world. So, shall we start?